minutes. I'll just tell you, my name is John McDougall. I'm a board certified internal medicine specialist, which means that I know as much as your other doctors do, and I proved it by taking a test. But I know something else that most of your other doctors don't know, which is unfortunate, and that is that the reason probably 80% of people are sick is because of food poisoning. Did you hear me okay? Did you hear me say food poisoning? Yes. Okay, good, and we're all good. Your friends and relatives, all those people you meet in the library, in your place of work, at family gatherings, these people who are overweight, which is more than two-thirds of your friends and family are overweight. And more than half of them have serious artery disease, and probably 30, 40, 50% have cancer. The Journal of the American Medical Association reported last week that 14% of Americans are diabetic, and half are pre-diabetic. And if you're a doctor like me, and you got to ask real personal questions, I bet I'd find out that probably 70% of your friends are constipated. They have horrible indigestion because, just next time you go to the supermarket or you go to the drugstore, just walk down the aisle that sells medication, to the public. You'll find all kinds of antacids. Antacids are real popular because everybody's stomachs is sick. Everybody needs to be on the purple pill. And then they're constipated, so they got a laxative. Basically everybody's sick. Does anyone disagree with me so far? Everybody's sick?
No.
Yeah. Yes.
You know very few healthy people, term healthy people, except for the people in this room, obviously. But everybody's sick, and when everybody's sick, you have to ask some basic questions. Why would everybody be sick? Well, the reason, excuse me, Ismail, let's agree, everybody's sick. Because I'm going to tell you why. You already know, but I'm going to tell you why. Well, first we have to agree everybody's sick, and I'm not making this up. Everybody's sick because of food poisoning. And food poisoning is like, people eat food, some kinds of food poisoning like staphylococcal and listeria and salmonella food poisoning. If you keep eating at that bad Mexican restaurant, you keep getting diarrhea and throwing up all the time. So the way you cure that kind of food poisoning is you stop going to that Mexican restaurant that doesn't throw up bad meat and beans. So that's one kind of food poisoning. And then another kind of food poisoning you might be able to recognize is, say, people get poisoned from lead and arsenic and thallium, cadmium, and it gets in food and people get poisoned. So the way you fix that kind of food poisoning is the same way we just fixed the food poisoning from the little microbes. We stopped eating it. So you stop eating the toxic substance. And when you do that, in those two cases of food poisoning, then what happens? The body naturally heals and you get well. Well, those are common kinds of food poisoning, but they're not the kind of food poisoning that's made well over 80% of your friends and family fat and sick. The food poisoning that's made your family fat and sick is from two categories of food. Okay, I'm going to make it real simple. One category of food, so you can remember one category of food poisoning, is animal foods. And that means pigs and cows and chickens and whales and seals and hippopotamuses and fishes. Anything that's an animal it poisons us as people because we're not supposed to eat animals. Those are teeth for eating something else, not for. Well, I actually call Einstein in my cat, and I should show you his teeth, but he's out on the porch and he doesn't want to come in. So you just have to remember what Einstein's teeth look like, my cat. We'll talk about him later. So one category of food poisoning is animal food, because it's not our food, and when we eat it, we get sick. Okay, so that's one category you got to remember to stop. And you have to stop it because you're like me, you're not moderate. You do things with enthusiasm, so unless you stop it completely, you can't handle it. So you just gotta get it out of the house, get out of the refrigerator, and stop going to those places that sell food through a drive-through window. That's a really common one. And then the other category of food poison is oil, like corn oil, olive oil. I know olive oil made the headlines today. What did it say today? Olive oil, there was the Mediterranean study. I didn't read the study yet, but I'm sure the olive oil industry and the nut people, the people who sell nuts are into this article too. They told you that it'll reduce your risk of cancer. It's in your paper today, you know that. They had their PR people out there promoting their stuff to you. You know, it's just business, ladies and gentlemen. So the other category of food poisoning is oil, like corn oil, safflower oil, olive oil, canola oil, etc. Okay, so you got the two food poisons that you got to stop, like the arsenic and the lead, and the salmonella and the listeria. You got to stop those things and keep getting sick. You got to stop the animal foods and the oils. Okay, so now you're sitting there saying to yourself, oh my goodness, that Dr. McDougall, I wish I wouldn't have come to the library tonight. He just took away everything that I eat. I got nothing to eat left. I was starved to death. I should have stayed home. Well, okay, so let me tell you what you're supposed to eat to fix the problem. What you're supposed to eat to fix the problem is starch. Let me just make sure we got that word right. Starch. S-T-A-R-C-H. That's what you're supposed to eat. But you already know that's true. I mean, you're people of history, of travel. You know that all over the world, up until recently, people lived on starch for hundreds of thousands of years. But clearly, when you're seeing headlines in your paper just this week and last week that they're discovering new populations of people that lived on oatmeal, corn, and, you know. Well, you know that. You know that. I mean, you're old enough. I can see some of you right there in the front row, in the second, third row. You're old enough that you remember when there used to be thin people in the world. Like in Asia, there were no fat people in Japan. You remember that? There were no fat people in China. Nobody was fat. Nobody in Vietnam. Some of you, like that guy with the beard in the front. I bet he's old enough to remember the Vietnam conflict, or am I missing that? Or the guy sitting next to him, old enough to remember. You remember the Vietnam conflict? Do you remember that? Do you remember that? I was in that conflict peripherally, thank goodness. But I remember you could see pictures of Vietnam. You know, the people who beat us in Vietnam. You see all these Vietnamese people were very thin, and what did they live on? Rice. We got beat up by rice eaters. Remember that? Yeah. And in World War II, we almost got beat by rice eaters again. Yeah, that's what they ate. 90% of the diet was rice. So you remember when people used to live on starch, like rice in Asia, there were no fat people, there was no heart disease, no breast cancer, no prostate cancer, no type 2 diabetes, no rheumatoid arthritis, there was no multiple sclerosis back then. Zero. All right, so there's one example of starch eaters. You know that. And some of you have traveled to Mexico and Costa Rica and other parts of Central America. And you know from your history lessons, or maybe your memories long enough that you remember when thin people used to live in Central America. Like the Aztecs and the Mayans were known as the people of the corn. They lived on corn. Now Mexico City, they say, is the fattest city in the world. Okay, so you remember that one. Tonight, well, it's too late, let's see, it's 9:30 your time. Well, when you catch the 10 o'clock news tonight, and you won't catch that. When you catch the 11 o'clock news tonight, you'll turn on the news and they'll have stories of Syria, Egypt, Iraq. That's what they're going to talk about tonight on the news, I guarantee it. And when you see the people from that part of the world, by and large, they're relatively thin people still because their diet is mostly starch. It's not, I don't know what's going to happen in the world today. Who knows what direction it's going to go in. But that part of the world, Syria and Egypt, and Turkey and so on, that part of the world used to be known as the bread basket of the world. And still, well, up until the last time I checked, 71% of their diet came from starch. Okay, so I gave you 3 examples that consisted of probably 5 billion people that live on starch. So that's what you've got to do, is you get rid of the food poisons, the animal foods and the oils. You just toss them out. You're tired of getting sick. You're tired of risking breast cancer, colon cancer, diabetes, all kinds of things. You want to get the most out of your life, and just throw that stuff out. And you put in place starches, which are potatoes, like the Incas eat, and they still eat a lot of them in Peru. Potatoes, you eat those. You can live on potatoes and water if you want. If you can't figure this out, you can go home and live on potatoes and water. That gives you everything you need, except for a little B12, we won't get into that. Let's see. Sweet potatoes, you can live on sweet potatoes and water alone, nothing else for the next, how many years you got left? You'd be in tremendous shape. You'd be thin, but you'd be in tremendous shape. Rice is a good starch. You have to add a little bit of A and C to rice, grains and legumes. You can't get all the A and C, so you get, with your bowls of rice like the Asians. In China before 1980, 90% of their diet came from rice, white rice, by the way. And there was virtually no obesity or diabetes before 1980. Now in China, at least 12% of the population has type 2 diabetes and half are pre-diabetic. Because they don't eat the rice. Instead, they eat like Americans. You ever see those Chinese people? So once in a while I get on an airplane. I hate getting on airplanes anymore. And I see tourists from China and the Far East. And man, they're sitting up there in first class. They're puffy cheeks, fat, and just sick, just like Americans. You don't look at it and see it. I don't know what happened to these people. They lost their immunity to disease because they picked up the American diet. That's what they did. Anyway, we can go on and on. There's all kinds of starches. There's bread and pasta. You know what starches are. And so most of your diets needs to be starched like it used to be. Like your grandma used to eat. Yeah, your grandma used to eat, make soups and stews. And once, maybe on Sunday, she'd give you a little chicken. So you eat mostly starch. You add a little green, yellow vegetable to it. That's okay. It adds color, interest, flavor. A little A and C if your diet's primarily grains and legumes. And you eat a couple fruits, and that's it. You go for a walk, get some sunshine, and folks, that's all your doctor should be telling you. But instead, go to the doctor. Now, I know I'm generalizing, and this may not be true for this group, but you go to the doctor, you get a 7-minute office visit, you get 3 prescriptions, and you're off to Walmart or CVS Pharmacy or wherever to get your cure. And you never get cured. You just stay fat and sick, and you're carrying around a bag full of drugs. That's all your doctors have to offer. It's a bag full of drugs. And it's not because your doctor doesn't want to help. Your doctor would like to help. It's just that they don't teach anything about food in school. And the reason they don't teach anything about food in school is because there's no money in it. You see, it's the drug companies and the food companies who come to your medical schools, your universities, and they donate tens of millions of dollars to build new buildings, to pay for research projects, to pay for the staff. That's where they get all the money from. You see, it's money. It's not a conspiracy. It's just money. And so they got all this money, and so they don't allow the school for a whole bunch of reasons. I mean, when I say allow, it's the money drives things. And even when there is an honest person, if an honest person stands up in the university, they get fired if they try and tell the truth. We just had an interesting experience. You watch my website, you'll hear an interesting discussion from one of our advanced study weekend speakers, which was last weekend. He's a big shot professor, and he's scared to death. And I got him to admit it on tape, so if you sign up for our newsletter, you'll get the mailings we get, which everything's free. You'll see this one doctor. It'll just blow you away. I hardly wait till the edits are done on this piece. But plain and simple says, I almost got fired on several occasions because I spoke up against PSA testing. Prostate cancer screening. He almost got fired. And several other things he tried to do. It wasn't about food. He almost got fired from this university. And he's afraid. And I got to say so on tape, and I'm going to ask his permission before I put it out, because it was a very moving piece. One of the top professors in the country. You read about him all the time in the newspaper. He's a big shot. You'll see it when it comes out in the newsletter. Well, anyways, these food companies, drug companies, and bypass surgery businesses, and new robotic instruments to operate on your prostate or whatever. All these companies, they go and they sell all this stuff to the university. And that's why the university only teaches your medical students this money-getting stuff, and they never teach you about the food. So you go to the doctor and you look for a cure for your diabetes or your sore body or whatever, your closed coronary arteries. You go in with good intention, you pay the doctor whatever, your insurance company pays the doctor whatever, you walk out with a bag full of pills and you stay sick. So if your doctor doesn't know, your doctor won't know because there's no motivation for your doctor to be taught what the problem is. So you eat good food, throw away your pills, which is what my patients do in most cases. Not all. Remember, I'm a real doctor, I'm a board certified internist. I write prescriptions. I'm licensed in 5 states to practice. I'm an assistant professor at 3 medical schools, even though they never take much advantage of it. Anyway, that's what it is, Jeffrey. Do you want me to say anything else?
That's wonderful. Thank you so very much. I'm sure we have lots of questions, so we'll get people lined up and we'll start.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
I have a special guest first, okay?
Oh yeah, hello there.
Talking here a little loud.
Hi, Dr. McDougall.
Hello
I
there.
have a question for you. I know the answer to it, but I don't know if you do. So here's my question. What is the worst vegetable and whose use is just getting worse and worse? Could you repeat that for me, because the computer froze? Okay. What is the worst
So
vegetable?
we're losing a little bit of wavelength here from you. So, or maybe Mr. Adams.
What is the word?
Sorry, it's just not coming across.
It's the internet. I don't think it's
All right, try one more time now.
Alright, what is the worst vegetable whose use is just getting worse and worse over time?
What is the worst vegetable?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know. Is this a trick question? Are you trying
Just a minute.
to trick me?
Hang on. Let her answer. You answer a question. Let her answer. Tell me.
It's the couch potato.
Sorry. Okay. All right. Please, your question.
Hello, Dr. McDougall.
Unfortunately, I have to tell you, the bandwidth from your library is not allowing me to hear you very well. It seems to block out, so we'll see. We'll do the best we can. Go ahead, try the question.
All right, Dr. McDougall, 2 years ago and 3 months ago, I spoke to you on Skype, and I thought I was John Wayne in disguise. I was a beef eater, and I was being told by my cardiologist that I needed a stent, and I was on Coumadin, and I was very unhappy with that diagnosis. And so I spoke to you, and you said in no uncertain terms what you have already said tonight. And I was a very obedient student, and I did it. I'm a plant eater, I'm off Coumadin, I have a new cardiologist, I'm on a baby aspirin a day, nothing else, and I'm fit as a fiddle, and I'm feeling so much better, and I just wanted to thank you. Thank you.
I have a chance to meet a lot of people, and sometimes they come up to me and they say, I know you're getting tired of hearing this. And I say, no, I'm not. I love to hear that we helped and people figured it out. It's just such a crime out there what's going on. I mean, it really is a crime. Criminals hurt you and your family and they take your money. That's what criminals do. Well, unfortunately, a good share of my colleagues, which include cardiologists and oncologists and diabetologists, when I say this, I generalize, but I'm not off the mark. Not because they purposefully do it, it's just because the motivation of money causes them to learn technology that makes lots of money. And it hurts people, and it takes their money away from them. These people are criminals. Someday, when the day of reckoning comes, they will be dealt with. It's just sad to say. My profession, when the time comes, will have to answer for what they've done to people in terms of doing coronary artery bypass grafting and stent procedures, angioplasties on people with chronic coronary artery disease. This is criminal behavior. We've known this we've known this for decades, but it's been public policy from the American Heart Association and the American College of Cardiology. It's been public policy for a cardiologist to not do these operations on people with chronic coronary artery disease. And it's been studied whether or not guidelines from these powerful organizations influence the behavior of physicians, and they do not. These doctors continue to perform these harmful and costly procedures on people, regardless of what the truth is, what the guiding bodies of experts say. It doesn't make any difference. They've got to put shoes on the kids. They've got to pay for their Tesla automobile. They got to pay for their next vacation. So they're not going to stop doing these things to you. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. They're human beings, and their interests and their families come first, not their patients, as they took an oath to do. And again, I'm generalizing. I'm sure I'm missing a few, but not many. And they're out there, they're out just taking your money. So what do you do? What do you do? I know they're well-intentioned. What do? Stay out of the business. You keep away from these people. And the way you keep away from these people is you stay healthy. If you're healthy, you don't have to go visit hospitals. You don't have to go visit doctors or drug companies. You just stay healthy. How do you get healthy? Well, for most of Americans, they're dying from food poisoning. Did I tell you what food poisoning was? They're dying from food poisoning. Once they stop the food poisoning, the type 2 diabetes always goes away. Always. They always lose weight. Their bowels always start working. You know, they always get a tremendous amount of health back. It's not like it occasionally happens. It's like if somebody smokes cigarettes and they have a bad cough, and they stop smoking. How often do you think their cough gets better?
100%.
Okay, say you have a friend who's a hardcore drunk, and they're falling down all the time, getting DUIs, and you know their life is being dominated by alcohol poisoning. When they quit alcohol, how many times do you think people get better?
Always. 100%.
Okay, so if you're suffering from food poisoning, which basically all your friends and family are, I hope I'm speaking clearly enough. When you're suffering from food poisoning, if you stop the food poisoning, then people always get better. Now there may be some scars, but you know those arteries you were just telling me about, I'm sure they're full of blockages and calcification, etc. But you stop the dangerous part of the disease as soon as you stop eating the food poisoning. It's no more complicated than that. If you walked out of the library tonight, you walked out of there and you just thought about what I said. You said, well, let's see. How much money is this going to cost me to have listened to what Dr. McDougall and Mr. Adams asked me to listen to? How much is this going to cost me? Nothing. Cost me nothing. How many side effects am I going to get? A little extra gas. Otherwise, nothing. You know, I mean, it's a no-lose situation. But there's just so much money at stake. And these people in the food industry, be it today, the olive oil business, which I'm sure it is, I haven't looked up the study yet, but I bet I can trace the funding of that study that hits your papers today to the olive oil industry and the nut industry. Or be it the heart surgery industry, or you know, whoever's selling the newest cholesterol-lowering drug. You know, you've heard about all the new cholesterol-lowering drugs. Instead of statins, which have gone to being, you know, just a few pennies a pill, they got these new cholesterol-lowering drugs that cost $14,000 a year. You don't think you're going to be hearing a lot more about those at $14,000 a year? It's just money. That's all. Did I get the point? Yes, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, my question is actually about arthritis.
Okay.
I have a friend, he can't lift his shoulders, basically, lift his arms past his shoulders. And when we first met, I just watched your video about arthritis and shared it with him, and he was very interested. So I'm trying to help him like put together a plan, obviously a whole food, plant-based diet. But just wondering within that, if you have any recommendations of things to avoid or things that would be better. That's my
Yeah,
question.
absolutely. Okay, watch my lips. Stop food poisoning. Stop food poisoning. My May 2014 newsletter, which you can go to, is all about inflammatory arthritis. It talks about cases of rheumatoid and psoriatic and other types of inflammatory arthritis that have been cured by using our program. Plus, there's reference to 28 scientific studies published in the Lancet, Arthritis and Rheumatism, all the best medical journals. Scientific studies that prove that people with these inflammatory arthritises are cured 40% of the time, 80% of the time, 100% of the time. In my experience, it's basically 100% of the time. And scientific research says so too. So why don't you hear about that? Well, the new arthritis drugs, the biologics they're called biologics. Biologics cost about, just for the drug, just for medication, $35,000 per year. What can I say? Well, anyway, I don't know what kind of arthritis your friend has, but if it's inflammatory arthritis like rheumatoid, lupus, psoriatic, it's really, really easy to cure. You just got to stop the food poisoning. So we take care of a lot of people, really, lots and lots of people, probably hundreds. And the results are always the same. The failure rate is about as high as the failure rate is for a smoker who quit smoking, or a drunk who quits alcohol. It's about that similar failure rate.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Dr. McDougall. I wanted to ask you a question. I came to Jeff's program because I want to get off my statin and my blood pressure. If I stay with the plant diet, will it really help me so I can get off these drugs?
Well, it depends on who you're working with and what you're doing. People who come to my 10-day live-in program, we start another one, I think, Friday. Today's Tuesday, we start another one Friday. I'll probably see somewhere around 40 people, myself, who are on statins and blood pressure pills. Well, we don't have to go there. You can just go to our scientific research that's published. We just published a study last year, almost a year ago this time, on 1,615 people. And over 80% of them either reduced or stopped all their blood pressure pills. All their type 2 diabetic pills, 80 to 90% of them reduced or stopped them. So statin drugs, I don't know, it depends. It depends on what your needs are, whether or not you can or should stop them. I prescribe statin drugs on occasion. If you look at my May 2013 newsletter, you'll see the indications for me prescribing statins. If you go to my website and you type in the search box, you type in high blood pressure, you'll see an article. I think I published it, I published it in 2009, and maybe it was November, I can't remember. But it's called How I Treat High Blood Pressure. It talks about how I treat high blood pressure. So I occasionally treat high blood pressure with drugs, if it's indicated. I know there's a big article. I've been so busy this last few days because we've had this huge advanced study weekend where hundreds of people attended. Just before the weekend, there was an article, it was last Friday, came out and talked about how treating high blood pressure, we should treat even more aggressively. To make blood pressure even lower. I know this is dangerous. I know this is wrong. I just haven't had time to read the article carefully because I know they're lying to you. They're exaggerating at least. And I have little doubt that there's influence from the drug companies behind this. When you think about it, why does something like olive oil reduces cancer get worldwide headlines? Why does something like you need to take more blood pressure pills get national headlines? Why do you think this is just a happenstance? Do you think that, maybe some smart person said you really need to know this? Why do you think you hear about these things? Well, anyway, if you go to my website, you'll read articles I've written on how I care for my patients, and some of my patients take statins if they have a history of heart disease in particular, or a stroke. And some of my patients take blood pressure pills. And, a few of my patients take lanticizumab for type 2 diabetes. And some of my arthritis patients have to take some arthritis medicine. But not much. That's the thing, not much. I would say if you want to get an estimate of how people respond to fixing food poisoning, stopping the animal foods and oils and substituting starch, how they respond, I would say 80 to 90% of them get off all their medication. Or you could say, they get off 80 to 90% of the medication. You just got to get a gist of what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be accurate figures. But there are some people who you need to use medication judiciously. But after you've exhausted the other possibilities, it's like a smoker with a bad cough. You can give them a cough syrup. You know, or a drunk. What do you do with a drunk? But you know, you fix everything you can fix, and then you take a couple of little pills and hope you do more good than harm with the pills. Because the pills do some good. I don't want you to get me wrong. You know, I'm a real doctor, I'm a board-certified internist. I'm not some holistic alternative medicine doctor. I do what I consider my best for my patients. And if they need medication, I prescribe it. I have a prescription pad. But you know, I like to give people the best opportunity to fix the problem. You know, if you don't know that smoking causes a bad cough, and drinking a half bottle of whiskey a day makes you fall down, then what chance do you have? If you don't know that the food is making you sick, and it is, you don't have a chance. And then once you know, you can say, well, you know, I'd rather eat oatmeal for breakfast and hash browns and minestrone soup for lunch and bean burritos. We're having beans and rice tonight. Actually, Mary's got beans and rice on for us tonight. We're having beans and rice and bread. And I went and got a little kale out of the garden. Never get kale straight, man. That kale's so bitter. But when she'll blend it up with beans, I really like the kale. And anyway, that's all you need to know is that. So that's all you have to do. And then you get your health back, whatever you can get back. Some of us have damaged ourselves. Like I'm 68 years old. I could eat potatoes and broccoli for the, you know, for the next 3 days, and I will not look like I'm 32. Do you recognize the family background of the name McDougall?
Irish.
That's Irish. Potatoes, if you could live on potatoes and water alone. We went to Costco in preparation for a newsletter I did at the end of last month. And we looked at the cost of potatoes. It costs about 40 cents a day to buy enough potatoes to feed a person. 40 cents. Anyway, yeah, potato, you can live on white potatoes and water, you'd be in phenomenal health.
I thought you were supposed to eat anything white, not white rice, only brown rice, only,
Don't eat anything white,
yeah,
like cauliflower,
like baked potatoes or anything like that. I thought
baked potatoes.
Baked potatoes were good.
Okay, let's, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I'm gonna sit there.
Okay, wait, don't go away, don't go away.
He said, go back.
Go back.
Okay, now, what we're taught is we're supposed to eat colorful vegetables, right?
Yes, yes.
Because colorful vegetables need good health, correct? Okay, what is the most colorful of all colors?
Red.
Come on, ask the audience, what is the color that has most colors in it?
White.
What is the, okay, that's correct, what is the absence of color? Black. So, if you say you're supposed to eat colorful vegetables, then anything white must be the best because it's the most colorful. Did you follow what I said? Don't eat anything white. Don't eat white rice like 2 billion Asians used to not have diabetes, heart disease, breast cancer, colon cancer, type 2 diabetes, multiple sclerosis. That white rice is so terrible they never had any of these problems. Now, your question is brown rice better? Yeah, it is. It's better. It's a little bit better. But let's see, you got greasy pork chop or white rice. What are you going to choose? Greasy pork chop is brown, and white rice is white. But what am I going to choose? Greasy pork chop or white rice?
White rice.
Hello. Go ahead. I'm ready.
Okay, so I'm asking a question for my mother. She had a heart valve replacement a few years ago, and they got her on Coumadin. Is that a necessary drug for that?
Well, you know what? I'm not an expert in that. I wouldn't even take a guess. So, you know, I'm sorry, you have to ask somebody else, but my distant memory says My distant, very distant memory says it's absolutely essential to be on a blood thinner with valve replacement. But you wouldn't take that answer any further than that, except I don't know, and she needs to talk to a specialist.
Thank you.
I'm interested in B12 supplementation for vegans. How much, how often, oral versus sublingual, what's your opinion on this?
Okay, again, unfortunately, the internet connection didn't allow me to hear all of that. Could you say it again, maybe a little slower than the way the question was over?
Okay, I'm interested in B12 supplementation for vegans. How much, how often, which way, oral, sublingual?
Okay. I think I got it. It's about B12.
Yes.
All right. You need to take B12. I've always recommended it. I'll continue to recommend it. I've got to remember I got some B12 on the shelf out in there in the next room. And when we get down, I'll go take my B12 because I've probably forgotten to take it for the last month. B12 is a supplement that I recommend. Let me just answer your question. If any of you really want to know all the history behind B12, you can read it on my website. You just go into the search engine, you type in B12, it'll tell you everything. Or you can read the last book that I wrote called Starch Solution. B12, I don't know what the right kind is. I used to think I knew, whether it's the cyano or the hydroxy or the methyl. I don't really know anymore. I thought I did. Right now, I'm recommending, with the right to change my mind in an hour, I'm recommending the cyano form. And how much? Well, you can't take too little, because they don't make too little. You need about a half a microgram, but all you can buy is 500 micrograms. So, you just take whatever, whatever pill you find in size. It's going to be massively excessive. Fortunately, as far as I know, it doesn't do any serious harm. But I'm not sure whether excess B12 hurts or not. So far, after 35, 40 years of studying it, I can't take a stand that it does. So, as a general thought, I would think that anybody who took supplement B12 once a day, once a week, a couple times a month, will be more than adequate.
How about oral versus sublingual?
That'd be okay. You can take sublingual if you want. Again, I don't know that there's any necessary advantage considering the massive dose that it comes in, even if you can't absorb it actively. There's an active B12 absorption mechanism that the body has. Even if you can't absorb it actively, just by passive diffusion to the gut, the doses are so massive in pills that you buy that you can't miss. So you can take a pill, take it. I guess the answer best I can give you is you can't miss. But you should take a little bit once in a while. My general recommendation, if you read my books and so on, it's 5 micrograms a day. After you've been on the diet, I recommend, not after, within, say, 3 years of starting that diet, I recommend. After you've been on the diet for 3 years, I recommend people take 5 micrograms of B12 a day for a long time. But those are very loose recommendations. You do need some. Sounds like you got that.
Hello, McDougall.
Hey there.
How you doing?
Didn't I see you last time?
Yes, sir, you did.
All things been since we got together last time.
Good. I've been tested at borderline for diabetes, and I did the diet, I did the eating habits and all that stuff about 3 months, and then I just quit doing it. And I was just trying to figure out how long will it take before, next time I go to the doctor, if I stick with it this time, will I get test results so I won't have the diabetes, or
How tall are you?
5'4"?
5'4". Okay, your natural weight. Next time we get together, your natural weight at 5'4" is about fewer than 110 pounds.
Okay.
So if you eat like I suggest, you just stop eating the oils and of course the nuts and seeds. You stop eating the animals. Instead you eat rice and potatoes and corn like we talked about last time. is you'll drop in weight somewhere between 8 and 16 pounds a month, and you'll stop losing when you hit below 110 pounds. And any indication of diabetes will be long gone, long before that number is reached.
All right, thank you.
And one thing, now that you left the screen, which is good, because I don't want you to feel like I'm saying this to you. No, go away. Now that we're kind of talking about it, I want to make a really important point. Is these diseases like type 2 diabetes and massive obesity, and coronary artery disease, and breast cancer, these things are personally destroying your life. As bad as alcohol or tobacco or heroin. And they're destroying your family's life. And they're destroying your community's life. And they're destroying the planet. I mean, this is a big deal. This deserves every effort you can put into it to stop it. It's just like I have to go back to the alcoholic or the heroin addict. None of these people I've ever met have ever stopped until they've stopped. So, if you have problems with your weight or your health or whatever, you just say, you say what Nancy Reagan said. Remember Nancy Reagan, our former First Lady? What she used to say to young drug addicts?
Just say no.
Just say no. Just say no, I'm not going to do that. And that's the only way I can handle my behavior. I don't know about you guys may be superhuman, but the only way I can correct my behaviors, my personal behaviors, is that I've had many devils in my life before, and we're not here to talk about them. But the only way I've ever been able to deal with the devils in my life is I've just had to say, I'm not going to do that anymore. I've identified what's killing me. And our discussion tonight is food poisoning. Animal foods like chickens and cows and pigs and fishes and seals and goats and dogs and cats and whatever the hell else you put in your mouth. You got to stop eating the animal foods. And you got to stop eating the oils. And if you want to lose weight, you got to stop eating the nuts and seeds and avocados. And instead you eat, as I said, beef burritos and pasta. And I had to go over for dinner. Mary's got on the slow cooker. She's got some white beans and I brought a little kale from the garden. I had to go over for dinner tonight. It's probably not going to work out.
We're getting a bus. We'll be there as quick as we can. We're
Yeah,
getting a bus.
I was just thinking, I'll have my private jet right at your airport here in a couple of days. Just I tell you what, we've had a lot of jets today. Tremendous number of jets over our house today. Jets and other airplanes, and it's huge. I've been listening, because we have some traffic over our house, but today we have traffic. About every 5 minutes there's traffic over the house. Do you know why there's traffic over my house today? It's because California is burning. They describe the fires that are right near my home as explosions. There are explosions up in Clear Lake and Calistoga and Napa Valley. It's not a fire; it's an explosion. And do you know why there's this explosion going on next to my house? It's because of climate change. It's because of what we've done to the world in the last 40 years. The lands are so dry around here that everything is exploding. And do you know what the primary controllable factor is in climate change? It's the food. At least half of the greenhouse gases, half of the global warming gases are caused by production of cows and pigs and chickens. And the reason I tell you this is because this is something you can stop right now. It's what is it? It's 7:20 in your part of the world. And if you care about your kids and your grandkids, if you care about me here in California, I know the next explosion of fire might be in my neighborhood. We're sitting here talking about what things that we want to take and put in a bag so we can carry it out of the house in case the fires hit our home. And, you know, if at 7:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you decide you'd like to make a positive contribution to your kids and grandkids, the most important thing you can do is stop eating the animals. Because they're the primary controllable cause of global warming. If Prime Minister Modi, he's the head of India. If Prime Minister Putin, he's the guy who runs Russia. If Barack Obama, and we could go on and name a few other heads of populace, if they stood up at 7:25 p.m. today, Eastern Standard Time, and they told the public of the world what I just told you, we could change global warming by 7:30. Think about it. It's not just you dying of diabetes. It's not just you having coronary artery disease. It's far more important than that. Far more important. It's whether or not your children or your grandchildren ever have a chance to do the things that we're doing right now. Think about it. That's not what you asked me. What you asked me? It's just, I was going to have you over for dinner, and I was going to fly my private jet. Don't private jet.
What I was going to say, you brought up a different subject. I want to mention that first. What you're talking about, there's a movie, The Cowspiracy. Leo DiCaprio finally got hold of it and saw it, so now it's started on Netflix. Same thing you're saying, but the Sierra Club, none of them are mentioning that the cattle are causing the problems, not the man. Water problems, the greenhouse gases, etc.
Well, you know, all the things that we talked about tonight, there's a lot of money involved, and there are a lot of people who like things different. But there's one thing that we will all agree on, is Mother Nature doesn't care. And regardless of whether olive oil has been claimed to be the solution to cancer as it was today, or last week the drug companies got their pitch in about buying more blood pressure pills, it really doesn't matter. I mean, unless we get this fixed, it's not going to make a difference. Because Mother Nature just does not care. And things will continue as they are unless we fix them. There are lots of things that need to be fixed. You know, we need to be driving around electric cars. We need to have trains instead of so many highways. We need to have better insulated houses. But, you know, all those things are somebody else's expertise, and they're going to take a long time to fix. But right now, you and I, right here at 7:20 p.m., we could, in our personal lives, you know, us, and we could do it in our churches and in our families and in our communities. Without hesitating or blinking, we can make a decision that we're going to stop at least the most controllable and important factor in global warming, which is eating livestock, animals. And if you don't think I'm, you know, at least you know I believe what I'm saying. Maybe you don't believe what I'm saying, but at least you know that I believe that what I'm saying is true. And you might take the trouble to figure out whether or not I'm right before your houses start exploding. Because they will soon. Mother Nature doesn't give a darn. Okay, any other questions?
No, I just wanted to tell you, thank you. I've lost 55 pounds listening to you for 2 years, but what I wanted to say too is you talked about the no oil. My husband and I went to the eye doctor, first time in 5 years, and both of us got a report we couldn't see because our vision had improved. First time in our lives it's ever improved. That's from not eating the oil, the arteries getting cleared out. I just want to say thank you.
All right. And I never get tired of knowing that, you know, we've helped, and I never get discouraged in trying and asking you to help me with what I believe to be true, and because I think it's really important.
We have 2 more questions.
Okay, that sounds good, Jeffrey. And I think probably by that time I'll warn everybody out. I'm sure there are a few people that wish they could get out of the room because this is too intense.
Dr. McDougall, how can your diet help somebody that has depression problems? How can it help the mind and, you know, the mood swings?
Okay. Well, I want you to remember this. It's my March 2004 newsletter. Okay? Did you hear that okay? March 2004? There I wrote a whole article about the ways to naturally take care of depression. And it doesn't solve everything, but there are some controllable things that will help with depression. And you know some of them. You know about exercise and the runner's high. And you know about sunshine and how sunshine relieves depression. And well, food does too. Food relieves depression a lot. The mechanisms were studied at MIT back in the 1970s and 80s. Changes all your neurotransmitters when you eat like I suggest. So it helps a lot with depression. And another helpful thing with depression is to not get too much sleep. Too much sleep causes depression. But that's all in the March 2004 newsletter. One of the things I would encourage all of you to think about is that the drug companies have done something very terrible to the people of the Western world, is they've hooked them, addictively hooked them on antidepressant medications. Probably 20% of adults have or are taking these drugs. And whereas they may help a few people, you basically become addicted to these drugs. You can't get off of them. You try and stop them, you can't get off them. It's what's happened. And, anyway, there are lots of things that cause depression and lots of difficulties people have in life and things they inherit, but going for a walk and getting some sunshine and not getting too much sleep and eating a good diet makes a huge difference in how your outlook on life goes and how your depression levels and your happiness system, a huge difference. And a few people may need some medication, but not very many. And again, it's just another example of the drug companies doing what they do. What do drug companies do?
Thank you.
They sell drugs. So what would you expect them to do? This is not a conspiracy, ladies and gentlemen. This is just business at its worst. People make these, they build these big hospitals. You got these big hospitals in your town. I know you do. Biggest, fanciest buildings in your town are hospitals. And why do you think that, like when I go to Las Vegas, which I haven't done, I need to go back to Las Vegas. But when I go to Las Vegas, I see these great big buildings, and I wonder, how do those big buildings get there? With all these people telling me I can come to their craps tables and I can win all a bunch of money. How'd they get those big buildings? Why do you think your hospitals are so big and fancy?
Money.
Okay.
Okay, our last question is from Richard, who has done trying to work with Skype and everything for the past 2 weeks. So he's done a tremendous amount of effort, okay? Unfortunately, sometimes effort does not produce the results you want, but I wanted you to know, so at least we got it.
It's not from
Yeah, we had a good one this evening. And Jeffrey, I appreciate the fact that you never give up. Even though we've had problems with Skype, and I know you get frustrated with other aspects like I do, trying to help people. You never give up, Jeffrey Adams. And it's because of you and other people who just say, it ain't easy, but I'm not giving up. So, yeah. So, Richard.
Yeah, so again, we thank you for your time tonight and for putting up with all this frustration. It's been frustrating for us as well. But I have a question about omega-3s. I know most of us probably are not getting enough omega-3s in our diet every day. So I wonder if you could give us some recommendations on some foods to eat and also maybe some amounts of omega-3 that we should shoot for on a daily basis.
That's a good question, Dan. Let me answer that question first in general terms. The reason you eat the way you do is because industry has taught you to fear protein deficiency. And to make sure you don't get protein deficiency, what do you need to eat? Meat, yeah. But folks, there's never, ever been a case of protein deficiency ever reported on any natural diet ever in all of history that was sufficient in calories. There's no such thing as protein deficiency. And the other thing you fear is you fear calcium deficiency. And to avoid this scary, scary thought of getting calcium deficiency, whatever that looks like, what do you have to eat? Okay, but there's never, ever been a case of calcium deficiency ever reported in the whole world literature on any natural diet. Now, the reason you know these two things about protein and calcium is because there are two industries. One is the cattle industry and the other is the dairy industry that make sure that you know this so that they can do business. All right. Excuse me. I've been talking solid for the last week. All right, so the question was omega-3 fats. How much should we get, and should we take supplements? Omega-3 fats, that means fat is a chain of carbons. Okay, you remember your chemistry. And at the third carbon position, there's a double bond placed. And that's why we call it omega-3 fat. The double bond is at the third position. Only plants can desaturate at the carbon-3 position. No animal can do it. In other words, every single omega-3 fat that exists on planet Earth was created by a plant. Never a fish. They were all created by plants. Or maybe some machine someplace. I'm sure there's some drug company that's making them. But I mean, you understand what I mean. So only plants make omega-3 fats. If you want omega-3 fats, what do you eat? Plants. And there has never, ever, well, I'll tell you the exception, just to close out, to make sure you know that I know the research. There's never been a case of omega-3 fatty acid deficiency ever reported in the world literature, except, and I'll end on this little story. Back in the 1930s, drug companies invented infant formula. You know, instead of the breast, you feed kids a bottle, you know. Back when your mom and dad and grandma and grandpa were growing up, the modern thing to do was to feed formula, not the breast. So they started making these infant formulas out of cow's milk, and it was full-fat cow's milk, and the kids started getting fat. Some of you are old enough to remember this happening, or remember your parents talking about the kids get fat from bottle feeding. You still do. The response from drug companies was to make fat-free formula. And so they started marketing fat-free formulas, and what happened was they developed fatty acid deficiency.
May I have your attention, please? The Southwest Child Library will be closing in 30 minutes. If you have materials to check out, you need to register for a library card. Please come to the circulation desk on the first floor. Thank you.
Okay. So did you catch the story?
Yes.
Okay. So the drug industry started making fat-free formula, and as a result, there were cases of omega-3 fatty acid deficiency reported in these babies. That's the only case of omega-3 fat that has ever been reported to my knowledge. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it was a pleasure. We can't stop because we can't.
Thank you very much. This is so great. Thank you.
Good night.
I mean, let's think about what just happened, all right? A world famous doctor with us, you know, frustrations and so on and so forth, all right? All right, but yet he's hung with it and so on. I mean, there's no reason in the world. I mean, he's got more money than anybody. All right? There's no reason for him to do this except he wants to help people. Okay, that's why he's doing it. Okay, which is also why I do it. We don't have his money, all right? But okay, so really, it's just so great for someone like this to do that. And, it's just just spectacular for somebody in his position. All right. A couple things. One is we have two handouts. Please don't leave unless you get the hand. Please don't leave unless you get the handout right up here. No, up here. All right. All right. So it's two handouts. Right. Second of all is we have carrot cake. So grab a piece of carrot cake and lay out.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Don't forget our next meeting next month, and also to the supermarket walk and talk. and the diabetes repair classes. If you want all the information, you're not coming to 2 or 3 years worth of these meetings, because each class is 3 hours long and so on. Each class you get 3 or 4 different tastings of food. I mean, really spectacular in my opinion.
You have a date?
But, it'll be about 3 weeks to start, okay? All right? So it's happy to talk to you at any particular time. Thank you so very much for coming. I appreciate your being here.
Thank you.